This is Sprint 3 of my engine. From last week, you wanted me to have an easy way from the user's perspective to access default shaders. So I just made an enum in the shader manager with the names of the various defaults. And if you look here under the frigate, I can just call that using getShader and then shader manager default shader light render. And that just makes it easier because they all show up under the default shader enum. And then for this week's stuff, I got my updatable manager, drawable manager, and part of my alarm manager done, and it's all working just fine, so I'll run it first and then talk about the code. So frame rate's still good and draw and update are working fine, and I'll show that in the frigate. The way these work is that they're submitted for registration in both update and draw, and deregistration upon destruction. And the update stuff is still pretty much the exact same thing because these submit for registration based on the various levels. So if I show the updatable manager, this is how it's set up. So there's a list of updatables that are stored along with the register and deregister function. And if I show the CPP here, when I register the updatable when I call it register on the updatable, I insert it into the list, but also keep a reference to the iterator. So I add it to just before the end of the list, and then I call setIterator on that updatable so I can keep a reference to it. So if I go here into the updatables, we'll see that setIterator just takes that storage list iterator and just holds onto it until further use, and it can be accessed with getIterator. And that further use is over here under deregister, where I just pass in the object. It gets the iterator and it gets the iterator that it's positioned at, and then it erases it. And then process elements just goes through the entire list and calls update on each object. And of course the exact same thing is happening in my drawable manager, where it's a list of drawables registered the exact same way with a reference to the iterator, deregistered the same way and processed the same way. And this is all connected through my scene. So if I open up the scene, we'll see all the different register and deregisters for all my updates, so update, draw, and alarm. And they're all set up the same way except with alarm needing a float time. So CPP here. My update asks the broker to execute the commands and also tells the update manager to process its elements. And the draw calls process elements on the draw manager. And submit command here is where you pass in the command that you want to execute to the scene broker. And then of course the various registers and deregisters over here. So I'll open up the scene broker. It's under commands. So scene registration broker just has add command and execute. And what this does is you just push back the command that you're passing in. And then iterate through that list and execute any commands that need to be executed. And then after that you clear the list. And for an example of a command, I have the base here, which essentially does nothing, but it's what I derive for the rest of these. So for draw deregistration, I have a pointer to a drawable, an execute function, and then I do the associated action. So instead of directly calling scene register and scene deregister, it has to go through this command first so that it's delayed to get the behavior that we wanted. So again, what it does is frigate calls for submit update registration, and then it does the update registration command over here. And then if we go to, let's see, command base, I think it's under updatable. Yeah, updatable is where it checks it has an enum class with the current state of registration, along with pointers to the commands that it'll use, so that we don't have to keep creating them each time. So these are instantiated in the updatable constructor, along with the current state being set to deregistered. And then I have all these asserts, and as you saw earlier, none of them triggered. It ran just fine. So if it needs to be registered, that means it's pending registration. I call register on the current scene using this object, which in turn, like I said, calls the broker and commands and goes through that entire process. And then here's where I set and get the iterator for the retrieval and storage in the list. And this is all working fine. So for deletion, when I ran this, there was an output. It says frigate destroyed, plane destroyed, etc. User scene destroyed. And that was just me testing the destructor. So we'll see under the frigate, this destructor here. It deletes the graphics objects, submits for deregistration, and then outputs that it's destroyed. And I also made sure that my scene cleaned itself up. So there's a scene terminate where it deletes the objects and also calls user scene terminated, which is seen right here. And then in turn, my scene has I believe it's my scene. It has a destructor where it deletes all my managers, calls scene destroyed. And then it just goes through that entire thing where it keeps calling the appropriate destructors or terminators. And then, let's see what else. So for the alarmable manager, which I didn't actually get to, I finished the alarmable, which is the exact same thing, almost, as the other ubbles, with the same state system and the keeping reference to the iterator. And then for my alarmable manager, it's a multi-map of a float and alarmable, and the register has a float time along with the alarmable object. So I didn't create an alarm event pair yet, so the pair would be alarmable plus the time, plus the ID actually. So if I want multiple alarms, I needed that pair with the ID. But I was just going to work on one alarm. But what I got for this, so inserting was technically working fine, same with erasing. But process elements, I was thinking I might need some kind of external time manager, which I just didn't have time to implement. And then I was trying to do like a weird bypass, just so that I didn't have to do that and can just get it to work quickly with one alarm. But that wasn't working for me either, so this is just on hold for next week until I can think about it some more. But that's as far as I was able to get for the alarmable. And I think that's it for this sprint. I showed destructors, things destroying properly, updatable draw managers, command pattern. I think, yeah, these are all the commands, but I don't have to go through all of them. They're all set up the exact same way, along with the broker. And let's see, alarms. Yeah, alarms I wasn't able to get working for this week, but I'm glad everything else is finished. I don't have too much work to do, but yeah, thanks.